Hello everybody, welcome back to the Racers Driving League Season 19 for Round 3 of the World Championship. Welcome back to Suzuka for the Japanese Grand Prix. I'm host Zach RC here to take you through all tonight's action. It should be an absolutely fantastic encounter here at this fabled circuit, host of so many fantastic races over the years in this league. It should be a very enjoyable affair indeed. As the first few cars heading out onto the circuit now to get qualifying underway. Two Red Bulls, as always, first two cars onto the circuit here. Imrie leading Matthew out onto the racetrack to get this one underway. It should be very exciting. Hopefully you'll stick with us. Of course, make sure to subscribe for more future RDL content as the season continues on. 16 cars with us as of right now. We should be expecting two more. We should be expecting Cott and Ben to join us midway through qualifying. Whether that'll be during Q1 or later on in the session, I have to wait and see there. But as of right now, just the one car going out in Q1. But hopefully that should change later on. So Red Bull then, third place in the Constructors' Championship. 26 points to their names in the first two rounds. 18 for Imrie and 8 for Matthew. Those two perhaps haven't had favourable first two races of the season after being the fastest team in testing by quite a way. So we'll see whether they can get themselves up and running tonight over the course of this 27 laps. 5.8 km circuit. First held the Grand Prix back in 1987. Antonelli set the lap record this year, 1 minute 30.9. We'll see if anyone can top that. As Imrie sporting that pink helmet rounds the last corner here. It rounds turn number 18 to begin the first lap. Onto the main straight and go down towards the very fast right-hander that is turn 1. Clocking over 200 miles an hour as he enters that first braking zone course. Turn 1 leads immediately into turn 2. On your toes for the reaction there going into that second corner. A lot tighter than its predecessor turn 1. Through the sectors now, into turns 3 and 4, through 5, down to 5th gear. Lifting for 6, and back up the hill again, a bit more of an elevation change, going through turn 7, that left-hander. Easy to run wide and perhaps spin the car out. We're trying to avoid doing that. End of the first sector, 30.8 for Imrie then, so he enters the second sector through turn 9. And heading up towards the hairpin for the first time. Going in from speed and shifts all the way down to second gear. Doesn't go for first. Keeps things as they are in terms of gear shift. And on corner exit, pulling away again through the long sweeping turn 12. That right-hander. Up towards turn 13, the two-corner complex that is Spoon. Spoon curve. Keeps things nice and easy there. And nearing the end of the second sector, of course, up towards turn 15, the famous 130R, one of the fastest corners on the F1 calendar. 1 minute 10.5 for Imrie as he enters 130R for the first time, keeping things under control there. And in towards the last three corners, sorry. Through the chicane, keeping things nice and easy there. Back on the throttle again, down the hill, good traction. And across the line, Imrie will go fast. It's 128.0 to start things off. So a good benchmark then for the cars around to try and beat in their first runs. And we'll see about Matthew as he comes to the yellow flag for Matthew. They're not quite sure what's going on with him there, but he's second fastest, 128.319, so not too much concern there for Matthew. So a good start of both Red Bull cars here. We'll see if anyone can try and top those guys. One of the Ferraris in the racetrack, that's EJ. Both Haas cars, Che and Dan, out on the circuit together. We'll see what they've got lined up. Oh, but Che pulls the car over. That's a very odd manoeuvre there from the driver placed third in the World Championship as of right now. What is Che doing there? Giving his teammate a bit of space, but Dan now quite a way down the circuit and off on his travels again on his outlap. A very odd tactic from the two Haas cars there. Whether that was coordinated or not entirely sure. I have to wait and see on that later on. But Dan here going through towards the last chicane to begin his first flying lap. And not entirely sure what the game plan was there for those two. But Dan is out there now. We'll see what he's got in the tank. At the last corner towards turn 1 now. It's 128.0 to beat. Of course, crucially in Q1, just got to get yourself through to the second part of qualifying for a lot of these guys. Everything's quite routine here. So up through the deadlines again, keeping things under control. And into 7 now, up the hill. Looking for a good first sector. Yellow flag in front, that's one of the Rebels going slow, that's Matthew. Going slow, one of the Saubers out the way there, 32.2 for Dan. So good start to the lap. Where is Che behind? Che's gone back to the pit lane there, so Che's called off his first run, so not entirely sure what went wrong for him there. Perhaps something went wrong on the outlap that we didn't see, but of course we saw him pull the car over going into turn 12 and where Dan is now. And that was it. He got going again and has just gone back to the pits. So Che's first round had to wait for a bit. Of course, Che is the one to beat in qualifying so far this season. He's managed to take both pole positions in Australia and China. And I'm sure he'll be looking for a hat trick if he can try and get it today. Of course, Imri's topped sessions in both the first 2 Grand Prix of the season in terms of qualifying sessions that weren't Q3. But Che is topped the most important one on both occasions. And whether we can get a 3-peat will be the big question. I'm sure a lot of it on the minds of a lot of people. EJ in third place there, 129.2 for the Ferrari driver. We'll see what Dan puts in for Haas's first lap as he runs towards the line to complete that first flying run. It's a 128.199, which is just over a tenth slower than Imri's and sort of breaks the gap between the 2 Red Bulls there. 3 tenths or so separating those 2 cars. Next car through will be one of these Saubers. That will be HB Cook. Cook obviously having scored 1 point this season. That's Sauber's lone point in the championship. And this game in the pit lane, so no sign of his teammate as of yet. HB Cook starting his next lap. Pope reserving tonight. He's in the place of Landlord in the McLaren. So just the one driver being capable of scoring points today for the team from Woking. That'll be just AT who's in contention to do that. AT also has 1 point from this season. Landlord's got 22, which puts McLaren P4 in the Constructors' Championship on 23. Of course, Haas lead the way, 66 points, 33 each for Dan and Che. And 56 points for Williams in the championship. They sit in second place. Grumio with both race wins. Grumio obviously is in the race tonight and looking for a 3rd one if he can try and get one tonight. JB in 10th place, sorry, in 9th place, apologies, with 6 points to his name. Of course, those points scored last time out in China. So that those put him 2nd place in the championship. 9 of the 10 teams have scored already this season, which is a fantastic sight to see. It just shows how competitive this grid is for this campaign. And the only team yet to score is VCarb, who are under a bit of concern here. Of course, the reigning Constructors' Champions with Alvar and Ben behind the wheel for this season. But Ben with 6 penalty points to his name from these first 2 rounds. So it's mainly been opening lap shunts that have sort of put the RB team down the order. But hopefully we'll see if they can try and push themselves back into points contention with a good run today. As Alvar goes to the first sector here, keep an eye on this machine here. Oh, off into the grass there. That'd be a bit of a concern. That could put him down this first lap. I think he's backed up at some stage. It's a 38.3, so far down as one of the McLarens goes past. And Pope goes fastest. The reserve in fastest, of course, former drivers champion, 127.8. We know Pope's got the stuff. And he sets the fastest time here over Imri in second place. Of course, those of you who haven't seen this series before, RDL reserves do not score points towards the championship, so their points in the Constructors or Drivers' Championship will not count. Only full-time drivers are capable of scoring, so the points will go up. So should a reserve driver win the race, for example, the points for that will then go to the highest finishing full-time driver. And to my mind, the last driver one of the last few drivers to actually win a race as a reserve was Pope himself, who took victory in Monaco a couple of seasons ago as a reserve driving for Haas. Che has since come back and scored, since I believe won a race or 2 as a reserve as well. So those 2 are no strangers to reserve performances. Those 2 were teammates back in the day, back in season 14 to memory, until Pope had to call it quits mid-season and joined us here in the commentary box from then through F1 23. ATP 5 there, so not quite with it compared to his teammate for tonight, 6 tenths off. As Grumio there puts everyone to shame, 127.7 for the reigning champion. And the driver has won his first 2 races of the season, looking for that 10th RDL championship. Doing a fantastic job so far. But of course, as I say, Q1 for a lot of these drivers, the focus is just to get themselves into Q2. I think Che's having connection problems here, so I have to keep an eye on him. There's 8 minutes to go in Q1. 11 cars set lap times. We're waiting on a fair few of them here. So Websy, Obsessed, Ethan, Cottony, JB and Che. 5 of those 6 cars are currently on laps, or on the racetrack rather, as JB runs himself into the grass there through turn 4. So that may well have put a stop to his lap very early on here. So likely we'll see JB regroup and go again next time around. 37.8 in the first sector. Obviously leaving a lot to be desired there. Obviously backing off in that first sector as well. Cockney Goblin there, currently running in P15, obviously yet to set a lap time. No points in the first 2 rounds, of course. His teammate Aussie, who is not in the race tonight. No Mercedes on the grid. Well, I don't know, rather no second Mercedes, but those two with Aussie's points put them into 5th place tie with Alpine. That's Websy and Cott behind the wheel of those 2 cars. Of course, those 2 managed to get themselves up into the points last week. Websy has 4 points in the season. Cott has 8. So slightly uneven split between those 2. But Websy has to get himself back on the board. Not the best of the first race in Australia, but obviously found himself getting to grips again in China. I'm looking for more of the same here. As Cottney rounds out the spoon and heads down towards 130, or up the hill rather. Of course, Suzuka, one of the 5 LiDAR scan circuits. Only Australia is the other LiDAR scan track we've visited so far this season. We're yet to visit Bahrain, Miami, or Imola. Those will come later on in the campaign. As Pope retires, so calls it quits after his Q1 lap, likely through to Q2. I can't imagine that being topped by too many more drivers. As Cottney crosses the line, hits 134 as he crosses the line. P11 here. JB P12 obviously smacked off on that first lap, and we'll see what he's got lined up this time on his second attempt. He makes his way through turns 4 and now into 5. It's a real driver's circuit, this. It's a white knuckle ride the whole way round. Drivers constantly kept on their toes. And Dan retiring too as JB goes 32.3 in the first sector, 5 seconds up from that last effort. So obviously a lot more time on the table for him to be picked up. Into the second sector now, looking at the hairpin of turn 11, losing my train of thought there. Yellow flag behind, one of the Saubers has backed off, going out of turn 8. I imagine that'd be HB Cook backing off to allow his teammate Obsessed Gamer through. Obsessed is on a lap here. He's invalidated his second effort though, so work to be done for Obsessed to get himself out that what is now at bottom 2. Che is back on the racetrack and is setting a lap time as we speak. We're back to JB though. He's towards the last sector now. He'll hit the split now. That's 12 seconds up here, so plenty more time found into 130R. JB himself last week said not thinking that there would be a big score in this Grand Prix as there was in China. He slides there through the chicane, and whether I've just jinxed him, not entirely sure. But up towards the line for JB now to complete his first proper lap. It's a 1:30.002. Puts him in P13, so still in the top 15. So none to sniff at, but I'm sure he wants a bit more. And how much time he may have lost going into the last chicane. Websy P7 there, so obviously safe as it stands. 128.7 on the board. So good first lap, good first run for Websy. Now just waiting on 2 drivers at lap times, one of them being Che, 1:10.3 in the second sector for Che. And we'll see what he's got in these last few corners. Can he try and match his teammate? 1:28.1 to beat in order to get himself in front of Dan. 1:27.7 overall for the driver who's taken the first 2 poles, but he's invalidated there at the last second. And off into the pit lane again. So Che then in a bit of trouble perhaps. Hasn't set a lap time as of yet. And we'll need to get back out there. Imrie retiring, and Matthew retiring too. It's both Red Bulls calling it quits. So that's 4 of the 17 cars still in the session who have retired and are quitting Q1. Likely those 4 drivers will all go through to Q2. I struggle to see a scenario in which any of them fail to make it. HB Cook there, P12, 1:29.7 his best effort on the board. And we'll look to see if he's made any improvements on his second sector here as he runs up towards the split. He's up by almost half a second here. That's a fantastic improvement there from HB Cook. He makes his way into the last chicane once again. And out to turn 18. Down the hill towards the line. It's a 1:29.7 to beat. It's a 1:29.1 this time. Puts HB Cook into 9th place on the board, just in front of Ethan's Aston Martin. Both Astons in the Grand Prix today. PJ Keller seeking his first points of the season. Ethan has taken points in the first 2 rounds. He's got 2 to his name, which puts him P12 in the standings. Yellow flag behind. No concern there. I think one of the cars backing off. I think that's one of the Williams cars. No, it's not. Actually, no, it is. It's Dramir retiring, so that'll do it for the top 5. Alvar here into the second sector towards the hairpin. and keeping things nice and controlled. On board with them now. Curtis retiring from P8 there. And wide for Alvar out of turn 14. And that might cost him a little bit here. We'll see what sort of time he's looking up. I imagine we're seeing him gain a lot of time in this second split. 12 seconds up. 1 minute 11.7. As Webty now retired as well. 18 now the only car in the top 8 still going. Not yet retired. 2 minutes to go though. So we are looking at last laps here. Che back on the circuit. And looking for one last effort to salvage his Q1. Only needs to set a time, I assume, faster than Cockney Goblin's 1 minute 30.4, which I should see him doing. I can't imagine he goes out at Q1 here unless he invalidates, which could be a starting spot dead last. And of course, we are still missing Cott and Ben, so likely those two will take up spots at the back of the grid. Behind Che, should Che then fail to set a good lap here. He's got this will be his last lap. So he's got one shot of this. If he invalidates, then he is out, which could be a concern for him. I'll be looking at a new pole sitter this season. So Che then going through the first sector. HP Cook retires in P9. As of front, only 2 cars going out. Obsessed Gamer is going out. I think he may be out of time potentially. Yellow flag in the first sector. That's one of the Aston Martins who's got a problem of some kind. He's got 50. Okay, Obsessed got 50 seconds to make it round, so he should get round in time and have enough for one last shot to get himself out of the bottom 2 here. But Che has obviously already crossed the line and won't be able to cross it again in time by about 10 seconds or so. So we'll see whereabouts he comes out. Obsessed there, looking for one last shot. His teammate is currently in P9. Can he get himself into Q2 as well? Starting that last lap then. And Che coming towards the last sector now. 31.9 was his first sector. It's 1 minute 10.4 for a second. Checker flag is up. And Cockney Goblin's on the circuit too. Number of cars outside the top 10 on the track in case they should get knocked out. But Che towards the line, 127.9, and that's the pace we're used to seeing. So Cockney Goblin as it stands is out. Needs a bit more improvement to get himself into Q2. Improving by 2 tenths here as he exits the first sector. JB on the racetrack here, 1 minute 30.002 to beat. That's the time to get you into Q2. You need a 129 more or less to have a shot. JB through the grass there. And not improving. Oh! Off wide on the gravel there. And JB, that could be it for him. That's back now on both Obsessed and Cottony failing to make it. Cottony's invalidated, so he's out. But Obsessed could still knock JB out in Q1. It's going to be very tight here as he exits the last sector. 1 minute 11.5. That could be enough. We'll have to wait and see here what Obsessed has got lined up for this last chicane. Can he get himself into Q2 from here? Unless JB, of course, improves as well, which could get him into Q2. Should he get knocked out now? Obsessed towards the line, though. It'll be 129 this time. 129's 2 from Obsessed. And JB needs about half a second now over Alvar to get himself into the second part of qualifying. Last few corners, he's used all his battery for the lap. He's going to have no real pull here at this last corner towards the line. It's going to be very close to JB. Has he got enough? I think he might have just missed out. He has missed out. JB over the line then. And P16, a second Q1 elimination in 3 races for JB. Not a great start to the season on the qualifying front. But that'll do it for Q1 then. And it was Grumio top the times. So we lose Cottony Goblin and JB. We'll see Cotton Ben later on in the race. So they'll start back. They'll start at the way back. JB and Cottony will join those guys in the bottom 4 on the grid. And why I haven't got any results, I don't know. Well, there we go then. So, if that is a result of the patch, I hope it's not. But if that is a result of the patch, that'll be quite frustrating because new patch came out today for F1 25. I'm waiting now for Q2 to get underway. They're waiting for the green light to come back on get cars back on the circuit. 15 cars still to live on into Q2, and 15 minutes to determine which of those 10 cars will be joining each other in Q3. So we'll look for the first cars out onto the track. Looks like Red Bull and Aston sending both their cars out. Looks like Ferrari got the same idea. There goes Matthew, first car out. And he's got the Aston Martin joining him behind. That is PJ. Although Ethan is also coming out onto the track. I think we should see Imrie as his teammate. Nope. Imrie's staying where he is for a minute. There goes one of the Ferraris. That'll be EJ. Ferrari P7 in the World Championship. 4 points to name from 2 rounds. Already a minute down. So Che obviously took a while to get going in Q1. It took him to the last. It took him to pass the Checkered Flag to just get a lap in. Would that be a concern for the drivers taking the first 2 poles this season, and whether it opens up the door for perhaps drivers around him to try and take some spots and try and get themselves that first pole of the campaign themselves? Just waiting now for the first car to come through the first lap. It's Matthew for his first car as he makes his way out of turn 17 and up towards the line to begin his first lap. So towards turn 1 then. Let's run ball with him here. Of course, as is often the case in the F1 game, we get quite used to seeing drivers who set faster times than what they do in real life. Of course, Antonelli now holds the fastest lap time, 1 minute 30.965 in terms of a race lap. And we'll see in terms of in the rest of qualifying for it, because drivers have been exceeding that throughout. We'll be looking at 129, 128s for the majority of the field. And of course the rare 127 for the cars up top. And we'll see if anyone's got that sort of thing in their locker again for this session. Matthew out to Spoon. Of course, still looking for his first RDL podium. Had a few opportunities late on last season, but couldn't capitalise, so I have to wait and see if he's got it this time around. 111 dead in the second sector. And heading now towards the last sector in the circuit. Pushing for a good first time here. 128.5 for Matthew. Next car behind him is PJ. It's 129.5 for the Aston Martin. His teammate Ethan in behind. 129.1, so faster still. 2 Ferraris coming in next. Curtis 128.8. Puts him in second place. EJ's invalidated, so no lap time for him as of yet. One of the McLarens in behind as well. That will be the other McLaren of AT. Last corner towards the line. He crosses it and goes fastest there by a good few tenths. Whether he's perhaps on his fresh set of soft tyres now, as Imrie does the same thing faster still. 127.9 on the board for Imrie. So good starts for a number of drivers here in Q2. And we'll see who's got the chops to try and match a time like that. As I say, Imrie's been matching times, so it's been the top in sessions all season so far. Or all 2 races of the season. Grimmier's on a lap here. Purple first sector. We'll see what he's got lined up. The car of the line, and that was HB Cook went 6th fastest. 120.29.2 as Dan goes faster still. 127.905. So ½ tenth faster than Imrie. The margins here are incredibly close this season. and it's fantastic to see. Granted that this may actually be the most stretched out it's been so far. Have to wait and see if it gets any closer. It's 18 now down to third. 8 cars set laps, so waiting on the other 7 now. Grumio towards the line. One went 10-2 in the first sector. He goes faster than everyone by a tenth or two again. Grumio 2 tenths up on Dan, 1:27.701. And tough to beat is Grumio on these sort of circuits. Of course, took victory here last season in the first 100% race to be routinely part of the regulation number of laps. Of course, the last season, the first season of our 100% race rule. So every 4 rounds of the season, we're looking at a full-length Grand Prix and just short qualifying. And the first of those Grand Prix, for those of you who want to know, will be here next week in Bahrain. So the entire race distance, a full 57 laps at the Bahrain International Circuit, but of course short qualifying as it used to be. So 18 minutes, sorry, the one session, and from there it's straight into the Grand Prix. Now Grumio won all 6 of those races last season, so it could be one to keep an eye out for. I think she will likely be the favourite going in, especially if he can come into it having won the first 3 races. Che towards the line, can he try and top Grumio? He comes close. 1:27.799, so 98 thousandths off, just under a tenth. And 4 cars now in the 1:27s. Pope in 5th, 1:28.151. There's AT, Matthew, Curtis, Ethan, and HB Cook, your top 10. Websy, EJ, and Obsessed, only 3 cars to yet set a lap time. I think it's likely here that pole will go to Grumio. But whether anyone's saving their best stuff for Q3, I have to wait and see. We're getting to about halfway through Q2 here. Of course, 15 minutes on the board. And in a moment, it'll be exactly 7 minutes and 30 seconds to go. So halfway through from now. And we'll see if there's any sort of change at the top of the board. But of course, the area to keep an eye out for will be around this sort of area, P9 to P11, that sort of space there. As Alvar goes across the line, starts next lap. He's the first car out right now, 1:29.5 on the board from us. Dan retires, likely safe in Q3. I'd say all the cars who sit 1:27s are safe in Q3. As Grumio takes initiative, retires as well. But Alvar, of course, looking for his first point score of the season, and RB's first score of the season. As I say, the reigning constructor, the team that won the constructors last season with Grumio and Landlord behind the wheel. Into the hairpin then, under control. Che retiring now, so top 3 all calling it quits. Imri, I imagine, should follow suit. Whether he tries to go again on another lap, I'll have to wait and see. Whether he may try and top Q2 at the expense of perhaps a slightly more worn set of tyres. Again, used driver saving just the one set, the way it returns to the extra set for Q3. As Alvar runs a bit wide there. Is that concerns there at turn 14? At a moment in Q1 as well. We're at 11.3 for Alvar, half second up as it stands right now. They'll be able to get him into Q3 as it stands. It'll be close. He needs a bit more time to be improved in this final sector. And towards the line, it'll be 1:28 this time, I should think. No, 1:29.2. It's P12, so he'd lost time in that last sector. Wasn't as fast as he was through the first 2. And still sits there in P12. Improved his time, but not enough. And Ethan, who's the first car out as it stands, is the next car to be crossing the line later on. He improved by 2 tenths in his first sector. Imri now retires, so top 4 cars all out. With 5 minutes to go, any of the remaining 11 drivers still going to get themselves into Q3. Anything I feel could go out. Pope and AT, and perhaps Matthew, I'd say, are safe for the most part. So it comes down to those 3 spots there. About 7/10 covering EJ to PJ from P8 to P14. Of course, Obsessed going to get a lap time too. Obsessed is in through the last few corners now. But the last corner for Ethan here, who's half second up in sector 2, towards the line, goes into P8. Now put Curtis as the first car in, last car out. 128.8 for Curtis, and right now down on his teammate, the last car in by 300ths. Obsessed 128.7 for Sauber. Everyone's now set a time, and we're waiting on those last 11 to be going for it in Q3, or rather going for it for the place in Q3. And it's anyone's guess who make it. Ethan Obsessed, the only 2 cars on the circuit here. Ethan backs off and letting Obsessed go. Both cars are on in laps as the Aston of PJ coming back up to the circuit. 129.552. Slowest time on the board right now, and needs himself about 7 or 8 tenths to get himself into Q3 from here. So Curtis on the circuit too, first car out, and only needs slight improvement to get himself into the last part of qualifying. Let's see if he's got it in his locker on those, on what I assume is a fresh set of soft tyres. I think Cott is set to be joining us now. Obviously we'll start from P16 as it stands. Ben having complications from what I'm reading here. So we may see him perhaps joining us later on towards the start of the Grand Prix. But those 2 will be the last 2 cars on the grid. So EJ on the circuit too. Both Ferraris, they're anxious to try and get themselves out of the danger zone pretty much. I mean, EJ is safe, but only just safe. Webbsy's down there. I say he's got a shout of getting stuff into Q3 still. Needs a lap time though. Needs to get on the circuit again. And whether we'll see any representatives from Alpine heading out to the pit lane to get their driver onto the track as AT and Pope both retire. So now it's just 9 cars fighting over 4 spots. So more than half of the drivers who are still looking for lap times here will be eliminated in less than 2 minutes time. Curtis coming through the last few corners here and looking to get himself, he just needs 300, that's all he needs to get himself back in the top 10. He'll want a lot more than that. So into turn 1 then. And the Alpine of Webbsy now joining him on the circuit. Webbsy is fairly close here. Can't afford to back off. He's got to go for it. And he'll have about 10 seconds, maybe 15 to spare when he comes back around to the start line to begin his final lap. He himself needs about a tenth and a half, likely 2 tenths, to give himself a fighting chance of Q3. Matthew there in P7 on the racetrack as it stands, starting his last lap. Ethan in the pit lane, he is done for now, and we'll see if enough drivers top him. Will he end up in Q3? Still Obsessed on his out lap as he was in the last session, and got himself into Q2 from this same situation. So can he soak up the pressure again? Have to wait and see. EJ on the lap now, improving by 700 rather. Curtis towards the last sector. We'll see what sort of improvements he's making. Up by 6 tenths, almost 7 tenths. So this could go a long way from. We could see him potentially up into the top 5. Should he nail this last sector? 3 corners to go. And down the hill, good traction towards the line, starting a bit on corner exit. But Curtis looks like a Q3 pick from here. P7 for Curtis. That pushes PJ out. And that's 200ths now separating the 2 cars in and out of Q2, in and out of Q3. Obsessed is on his last lap here. He stopped the lap. So everyone who could be on the circuit right now, minus Ethan, is on the circuit. Checker flag has just fallen. Who is the next car through? It'll be EJ. He's P12 now. Down by a quarter of a second, or up by a quarter of a second on his last effort. Puts himself into P9. That'll put Obsessed out then. But Obsessed, Obsessed 2 tenths down in his first sector and invalidating there. So that'll do it. Obsessed out of qualifying. Next car to the line will be Matthew. P8 now. Obsessed retires. There he is. First car out. And Matthew P3. Fantastic lap late on there from the Red Bull driver. Alvar is up by just under 3 tenths. Needs more than that though. Needs big last sector. Up towards the line. Be a 28 for him. It's only 12th place though. So he's out of qualifying. 3 more to come through. In terms of cut, or in terms of bottom 5. PJ is 3.7 down. He is done. Websy a quarter of a second up. Obviously the last car then is PJ pits. That's it for him. So it's all down to Websy now. Curtis gets across the line too, but Curtis is safe in Q3 from here. Both Ferraris make Q3, I think for the first time this season. And Websy then, last few corners. Has he got the speed to get himself into Q3 from here? It's P15 if not. Sliding through the last few corners here. He needs to get himself to the line and fast. He's up towards the line. He's done it! Just! And by about just under 500ths of a second, Websy goes into Q3 at the expense of Ethan. Both Astons out. Both Saubers out. And the RB of Alvar, P14 for him. So Grumio fastest then from Che in second, Matthew in third. Is Matthew a shout potentially to get himself onto the front row? Maybe even nab a surprise pole. So there it is then. Grumio fastest from Che, Matthew, Dan and Imri top 5. Quarter of a second cover in those top 5 cars. Pope in P6 and it's 87th. Half second cover in the top 8 is Curtis P8, EJ P9 and Websy in P10. So McLaren, Ferrari, Haas and Red Bull getting both their cars into Q3. Williams and Alpine just the 1. Ethan, HB Cook, Obsessed, Alvar and PJ all find their end here. Both Astons, both Saubers and the lone V car out in Q2. Here we go, the last bit of qualifying, 10 drivers left. And we'll see who we're taking the third pole position of the season. Can Che go 3 for 3? Grimmer's been fastest by a good few tenths here so far this evening. Can he do anything? We'll see what he's got in the locker. So the first few cars are coming out for Q3 runs getting underway. Leading them out once again is Imri. So once again the trend continues. The Red Bulls, the first cars out, eager to get going. So 6 cars out there immediately. Curtis, Grumio, 80 and Webster giving it a second. And there goes Curtis. EJ on the circuit, Matthew right behind him. So Imri then, of course, has been fantastic in qualifying so far this season. Topped sessions in Q1 and Q2 over the course of the first 2 rounds. The only question now is, can he put himself on pole for the first time this season? Grumio, as I say, I think they're likely the favourite for this one. But it could be anyone's game come Q3 because we don't know what, in terms of tyres, where everyone's got their sleeves. So last few corners then, as Imri will line up to get the last bit of qualifying underway. His first Q3 lap coming up now. 6 cars that are trained together. And now only Grumio and Grumio and Websy not on the circuit. As Grumio, as I say that, joins into traffic here. And he'll try not to get in people's way, I shouldn't think. Back with Imri in front. He's going through the Degners now. Through turn 6. Up the hill towards 7. And the end of the first sector, we're looking at a 31.5 for Imri. So the car sliding there, he went over the curb at turn number 8. Up towards turn 11 now. With the hairpin, bit of a lock up there. Tyre smoke, of course, has been adjusted in the patch today. I haven't seen a lot of lockups so far. And of course, in some cases it can be a lot worse from behind the wheel than it is from what we see up here. So Imri then in control. Went at 10.072, so a lot more on it this time. And we'll see what sort of time he puts in. Grumio is putting in sort of mid to low 27. Apologies, no, just mid 27, apologies. Last corner though for Imri, we'll see what he's got. It's a 127.5, and that could be a lap on par. EJ second, 128.9. Matthew, that will take second and back. 128.4 for Matthew. It's 127.6 for Pope. So the McLaren reserve and season 11 champion. Now third as Dan goes fast. It's 127.2. Che behind him, 127.4. So the Haas cars lead then. Grumio starts his first lap, and we'll see what sort of time he puts in. Can he join these guys once again? 4 cars here in the top 4 with 127s on the chart. 128s for Matthew and EJ. Websy now starting his first flying lap. AT and Curtis coming through. Curtis last quarter. Curtis P6 in front of his teammate by 3/10. So improving up to P6 there. Websy, AT and Grumio yet set laps. AT 1 minute 10.8. Perhaps looking at a mid to low 28. Should things stay remote and controlled through this last sector. Into the chicane again. Back off again, last corner. It'll be a 129 this time, 129.4 for AT. Not a fantastic start. 30.8 for Websy in the first sector. Where does Grumio put himself in the second sector? 1 minute 9.9, and that's the first of those we've seen all night. Grumio could be here and looking for pole number 1 of this season. Last few corners here. And truthfully, I don't think that the 9-time defending series champ is messing around. He's not messing around, but it's a 127.3, so Dan's still fastest. Websy into the last sector now. 1 minute 10.5 for Websy. So Grumio is fastest there in the second sector than we've seen anyone else go all evening so far. But Websy, though, is there. And Dan, his last sector must still be quicker because Grumio is down by about a 10th or so. So Websy goes 6th fastest. 128.8. 128.288, sorry. So first car in the bottom 5. So a nice even split here by quite a way from the top 5 to the bottom 5. And overall, the top 10 after those first laps covered by 2.2 seconds. 1.7 discounting ATs. Who I'm sure we'll see some improvement from later on the second laps. So Grumio then not the fastest car early on, and it's close. So I shouldn't think it's a worry for him. And he's on the provisional front row as it stands right now. So everyone more or less heading to pit lane now. And that'll cap off first runs, and we'll see what about they emerge for their last runs. I think one of the Ferraris making their exit now. That is EJ coming back on the racetrack. So Dan fastest then from Grimiro second, Che in third, Imrie in fourth, and Pope in fifth. ATN back on the circuit. Pope stays in his pit box for now. Websy P6, that's Matthew P7, Curtis, EJ, and then AT. The bottom two back on the racetrack then, looking for what will likely be their last runs. I shouldn't imagine them making this and then one more. Perhaps trying to avoid any late traffic. But the top 8 all stay in the pit lane here. And who's got the speed to try and top Dan? Or can Dan put it back in again? I'm thinking. I get this feeling that we could be looking potentially at a high 126 from someone. I don't know who, but I feel like the pole time will be looking at that sort of time at the end of the session. We've got 3.5 minutes to find out, and I should imagine the next few cars will be making their way out in just a matter of minutes. As there goes Curtis in the other Ferrari. EJ starting what could be his last lap. 1:28.9 to beat. And what I imagine is a fresh set of soft tyres. And yet Stino make them back on the racetrack again. Just the bottom 3 out there. EJ up by just over a 10th. And we'll see if he can make any more improvements. Get himself perhaps onto that 4th row. Try and get himself in front of his teammate. Needs a bit more than that. But it could be on for him. AT comes through the first sector now. Up towards turn 7. Bit of a run to the grass almost on the exit there of turn 6. As Ben joins us. So we'll get 19 cars on the grid then. Just missing the one Mercedes of Aussie. As AT goes 10th and a half up in sector 1. EJ towards the line now for the second sector. Half second up. As right now that'll put him around where Matthew is. So we may see him gain a spot or two late on. Off the last corner for EJ towards the line. 1:28.3 off P7 in front of Matthew then. AT coming towards the second sector now. Curtis starts his final lap. Matthew on the circuit. AT improved by half a second. They'll keep him P10. He needs a bit more time than that to try and challenge Curtis in P9. AT P6 then. So good lap then. McLaren 3rd row as it stands right now. So everyone on the circuit here. Just over a minute to go. And we're looking for the end of qualifying now. Bit of a train here. Both Red Bulls, both Haas cars. All giving themselves a fair bit of room. Matthew the first to go. Matthew down to P9 here. Grimiro also on the racetrack. He's got Websy right behind him. Is Websy looking for a toe potentially? Last laps then begin. Matthew into turn 1. Imrie following him. Then it's the 2 Haas boys of Che and Dan. Those two, both of them 17 points back in the Drivers' Championship and looking for victory and looking for pole to start things off. Question is, can they improve or will Grimiro beat them both? Matthew down to P10 here as Curtis goes up into 6th. Matthew improving by 4/10. That'll put him around P7 again. Oh! And there goes Dan. Off the circuit there. As the checker flag falls. Big shunt we managed to catch. And his front wing's gone. So the provisional pole setter then, Dan, will not set another lap time. He is out of... Well, he's not out of qualifying, but he's out of commissioning for this lap. Checker flag is forward. Next car through will be Pope in P5 right now. Improving by a quarter of a second. Could get him onto the front row potentially. He gets enough improvement in this last sector towards the line. Pope goes third, fastest, 1:27.3. Next car through will be Matthew. Matthew up by 8 tenths. So Matthew goes up into the 6th spot. Where's Imrie go? He's half second up. Imrie fastest, 1:26.8. Che second fastest, 1:27.0. Grumio a quarter of a second up. Well, just under 3 tenths up in the first sector. And I'd say he is Imrie's last real threat here. We could see Grumio and Imrie share a front row. Or Imrie and Che share a front row. So come down to what the 9-time champion does through here. He's 3 tenths up. It's not enough right now. He needs more in that last sector. He's another 2 tenths or so. Just a few corners to come. Only Grumio, Curtis and Websy at the last lap times. Grumio last corner. Moment of truth. Can he try and top Imrie for pole? Across the line. He won't do it. Imrie on pole as it stands. Websy goes to 8th. Curtis will not improve. And Imrie is on pole position for the first time this season. He takes pride of place in that first starting spot for the first time this season. And looking for that first win since F1 23. He's been close. And I did say at 1:26 he needs to do it. And he's done just that. So Imrie then takes pole position. And that'll do us for the moment. So we'll take a brief intermission here. We'll be back with you shortly. In just a few minutes' time, we'll start the Grand Prix. So here we go then. A minute or two away from getting underway here at the Suzuka International Circuit for the third race of season 19. The race is driving lead the Japanese Grand Prix. And if you just missed qualifying, I feel bad for you because that was quite possibly one of the more exciting ends to qualifying we've had again to match up with the trend this season. But in terms of our circuit, there isn't on the board for you. 18 corners, 27 laps, 53 last season. Of course, this was the first 100% race we ran. Not the case anymore thanks to Japan's place on the calendar being third this season as opposed to fourth race. Grumio won it last season. Him and Che went right to the wire, led the whole Grand Prix and came through at the end. Grumio won by about half a tenth or so. It was very, very tight to the flag, but we'll see if it gets any closer this season. Of course, Imrie on pole and Grumio this time on the back foot, perhaps for the run towards that first corner. However, we'll look at the starting grid in a moment when the formation gets underway. We'll have to wait and see here. Who's got the speed around Suzuka? It's a tough circuit, but one that's oh so satisfying to get right, and we'll see who's got that in them today. over the next 27 laps. 5.8 kilometers of circuit. It should be an absolute blast. Just the one DRS zone down the main straight, going down towards that very fast turn 1. Of course, Che's taken both poles and Grumio's taken both wins so far this season. Grumio leads by 17 points over Dan and Che in the Drivers' Championship. Landlord 4th, not here tonight. He'll be replaced by Pope as a reserve. Imri P5 in the Championship, 18 points from, could be his first win of the season today. Aussie P6, not here tonight. Matthew P7, that's Cott 8th, JB 9th, and Curtis 10th. That is your top 10 in the Drivers' Championship. Haas lead by 10 points to Williams in second place in the Constructors. Red Bull in third by 40 points. And it's 43 to McLaren in fourth place. Have a look now your starting grid to get this one underway for the Japanese Grand Prix. Round 3 of the Championship is Cott starting from dead last in P19. Ben starts in P18. Meant to be, it's down to the RB driver, but driving the Mercedes because the game's given the wrong car. Medium tyres then for both those two. It's Connie Goblin P17. Soft tyres him on the start. JB P16, a second Q1 elimination in 3 races. Medium tyres for him for the run towards the first corner. That's PJ P15 on the medium tyre as well. Medium tyre, the predominant tyre of choice for the majority of the field. Only 3 drivers not starting on the yellow wall tyre. Alvar P14, first Q2 appearance for RB all season, I mind. You see he lines up on the mediums as well as one of the Ferraris taking a trip into the grass there. EJ starts P10. He's taking a run onto the grass there. Might not help him too much the rest of this formation lap. The 2 Saubers there, P13, P12, Obsessed and HB Cook, both on mediums. Ethan on the soft tyre, looking for a slightly shorter first stint, a longer second stint here. EJ P10, as I say, that trip through the grass might not help his chances. AT and P9, that's Websy P8. Curtis P7, hard tyres on for Matthew. He lines up P6 on the outside of the third row. In your top 5 then, Pope from P5 reserving in place for Landlord tonight. But around the sort of place Landlord would be. Your 2 Haas cars on the second row there, down in P4, Che in P3. Those 2 tied for second place in the standings as it stands right now. Both on 33 points and 17 back from the driver who starts in second. Grumio is taking the first 2 wins of the season. And Imri here, who hasn't won a race since late on in season 16, looking for his first victory in well over, just over, I want to say a year or so. As he comes through, locking the tyres all the way up there and takes his spot on the grid. And look where he is parked. Okay, he's missed the slot. I was going to say, he's parked quite a way to try and cover Grumio off for the run towards the first corner. Has Grumio got it right too? I think Grumio has just nailed it there. Nope, he's missed it as well. Che okay, Dan okay. So a number of cars here all doing fine. Both the cars in the front row starting as far back from the grid spots as they can. And it's going to be a very exciting affair here as Cott takes the last spot on the grid. Remember, Ben is in an RB in terms of constructor this season, but he is in the Mercedes today in place of Aussie because the game's given him the wrong machine. So here we go then. The lights are about to come on. Let's get the 3rd race of the season underway here in Japan. Imri and Grumio on your front row. Lights out onto the floor. We are racing here. Good start from both cars. They head down towards the right hand. And Grumio gets a better run on the inside. Imri might try and cover him off. Imri clears him into the first corner. And close to contact between Grumio and Che here. Che trying the outside through turn 2. Everyone's getting it nice and easy here through these first couple of corners. Everyone nice and smooth. No dramas further back. But Imri leads early on from Grumio and Che, your top 3. Down in P4. Then it's Pope being threatened by Curtis for P5. Curtis up a couple upper place or 2 there. Websy in P7. Matthew P8. 89th and EJ is still in 10th place despite the grass from the start. Ethan trying to get around both Saubers there, but there's a car wide. As this game off into the grass, luckily doesn't hit anything. Carries on down the order, hit down to P15, so losing a few spots on the start. There goes Connie gobbling around his outside. Connie on the gravel, and 2 cars off. And Connie and Ben both finding the gravel early on here. Both drivers recover here, no such concerns for either one of them. Just to build up on the tyres, which can be recovered, and they're both back to racing again in the back of the order. HB Cook trying to challenge Matthew there for the last point to pay in place. And Imri is set to work here. 7 tenths up. Che, 8 tenths back from Grumio in 3rd place. Dan 4th. Pope still P5. A single file here. No challenges as of yet. The thing's keeping nice and calm on his first lap. Into 130R for the first time. Imri in complete control of this thing now. Almost 8 tenths up. Of course, no DRS in play until we reach this point in a lap or so. And Grumio will try and get his first run going towards turn 1. Onto that 2 now. Imri in control. Couldn't have asked for a better start. Of course, had a brief challenge from Grumio going towards the first corner on the getaway, but Grumio had no such challenge anymore. In fact, got threatened by Che through turns 1 and 2. So things stay as they are for those guys for now. Imri in control. And looking good in that first sector, getting a fair bit more time than he did in the first lap alone. He's already 9.5 tenths up for a brief moment there, but Grumio trying to reel him back in. Of course, Grumio's won countless times the circuit victory here last season as well. Ben falling back a bit here, out of the DRS range. One of just 2 cars to be outside of the DRS range. The only other one being Matthew on those hard tyres. And falling away from EJ in P9. So Matthew might find himself under pressure here from HB Cook and Ethan. Those 2 cars, P11 and P12 in the order. Alva behind them. We'll have a look in terms of positions gained and lost in this first lap and a half or so. And Cott, who of course started dead last, up 4 spots here. Work to be done for him. Of course, he's won this Grand Prix before. This was the place where he made his RDL debut and won previously as a reserve. Had a lightning fast start to life in the RDL, did Cott. Hasn't taken a ton of wins in his career, but it's still there and always threatening for them. But he, like Imri, hasn't won a Grand Prix since back in F1 23. See the 2 Haas cars, nose to tail, going into turn 16 here. But more interestingly, Grumio close to Imri now. But half a second back, and DRS in plays begin lap 3. Grumio fastest lap, 1:30.6. So that's faster than Antonelli's fastest lap time in the real life Grand Prix this year. And that's faster by about 3 tenths or so. It was a 30.965 for Antonelli. Yellow flag here, and that is Curtis. Some kind of altercation here down the order. Down to P9 under pressure from Matthews, looking for P9 off him. He goes from chasing one Ferrari, he's chasing the other one now. As EJ gets a bit more time to break away, he's currently 7 tenths back from AT, so in DRS range to the McLaren in front. The train stretches back here from Curtis all the way down to the back of the order. There's a reminder of your tyres. So as I say, just 3 starters on different tyres on the mediums. Matthew on the hards and Ethan and Cottony looking for the softs. But perhaps that trip through the gravel at the exit of turn 8 for Cottony wasn't to be desired. So he could be in a bit of trouble there. Grumio, speaking of trouble, is giving it to Imri here as they make their way through Spoon for the 3rd time. Imri looking for a better drive off. He might have just got it there. But Grumio using some battery. He's got a fantastic run, but is now the place to make the move. He's going to try and go for it. He's going to draw alongside him. Perhaps try and hold him up a little bit. Grumio takes it. And now, because he's got the lead here, will lose out on DRS. So Imri will need to try and get him back. But he's got the DRS to do it now. And we'll also see him use battery. Was that a tactical play by Imri perhaps? To try and get himself DRS in this main straight. Because he's handed Grumio the lead here. So he must be confident getting his chances back. Going down towards turn 1. Making his move to the inside now. And passing Grumio on the right. Nice and easy. So DRS very effective here as we go through turn 1 again. Imri back in front. Dan now in 3rd place and putting Grumio under pressure. Che a second back, no DRS for him. Hope in P5. ATP 6, Websy and EJ in his wake. And it's Curtis running at your points playing place. Matthew behind him in P10, sorry. HB Cook P11. It's Ethan P12. Caught up to 13th now, so the chance continues on for him. JV down to P15 here. Or sorry, up to P15 here. Obviously up 1 place on his starting spot. Alvar, Obsessed, Cottony and Ben have all had something going on in his first 3 laps or so to put them down the order, but they're still in the fight, so nothing is lost as of yet. But Imri up front in control. And I think knows now not to let pressure of the cars behind get to him as Ethan has got... Oh, Ethan off the gravel there! Through turns 8 and 9. And Ethan there in trouble. Sorry, I just had to test him about make sure it's working okay. So Imri then still in front, but Ethan then... The 2 soft tyre starters then not having the best of first stints here. And both of them have seen trips into the gravel at turns 8 and 9. So whether that's a potential hazardous point for the majority of drivers today, we'll have to wait and see. Speaking of hazards, Grumio is still right on Imri's tail. But does Dan get there first? Both cars have DRS here. Grumio looking for a good run. Closing the gap and making his move to the outside here. So Grumio getting forced the long way around, but clears Imri at the first corner. So Grumio now back in front. Leads for the first time today, on lap number 5. Imri and Dan know their mission here is to try and keep themselves in range of the reigning champion and defending winner around the circuit. Dan Dewar caught into P12 now. He's managed to make the pass on PJ. But a second and a half back from Curtis in P11 as Grumio now opening up to 8 tenths. Or 7 tenths rather. Oh, and Che going wide there. Off in the gravel, but he controls his car. keeps himself running, but Pope now trying the inside, going towards turn 10 into 11 now. Close to contact. Pope trying for a second. Might try to switch back in on corner exit. Not quite. So then, Pope is still in P5. Oh, and he almost takes a moment towards the grass himself. So everyone's finding the limits of the circuit here. Curtis disconnecting. As I said earlier on, this is one of the 5 LiDAR scan circuits. So one of those tracks where drivers got to sort of get used to any changes and any particularly different feelings, any nuances perhaps weren't there in previous games. And Imri is now just outside the DRS range of Grumio, so may not get down the main straight. Could fall prey to Dan as he comes through the last few corners. A single solitary DRS zone onto lap 6 this Grand Prix. Grumio in control, fastest lap from him again. And Dan with a fantastic run. This will be P2 from Easy here. Easy pickings for Dan, and the Pulsar finds himself down in P3 now. But can he keep on Dan's tail? Grumio here, as it stands, 75 points for him. If things finish as they are now, help him expand his lead to a total of 25 points over Dan. Che in P4 may lose his spot potentially. Actually, sorry, I think he'd be pretty safe in 4th. Imri only getting 3 points in him right now, so not enough. Imri only on 18 points in this campaign. So EJ, and then Websy behind him. Matthew P9, HP Cook now P10. As Curtis has fallen back through the field a little bit here. Down the order ever so slightly, and a bit of a concern. They lock up into turn number 11. PJ on his tail, looking for a move on corner exit, can't quite do it. JBP 14, and Cott has passed all these guys now. Cott into 11th place, and nearing DRS range. That Alpine's got some pace in it today, and I see no reason why Cott can't score points or even try and challenge for a top 5 finish. PJ making the pass on JB now for P13. Alvar obsessed on JB's tail now. And Pope making the pass now on Che for P4 as ends turn 1 again. Grumio almost a second clear once more. Dan here in 2nd place, only just in DRS range as it stands right now. Imri 6/10 back. But those top 3 breaking away here from Pope and Che as Matthew passing Websy side by side through turn 2 here. Websy edging in front for 3 and pulling clear at 4. But Matthew knocking at his door as they go through Degness once again. HB Cook in 10th place, the last points paying place for him as it stands right now. And Cott now on the tail of all 3 of these cars. So whether we see him perhaps in P8 in a number of laps time. I'm getting, for some reason, I'm getting very eerie vibes to the Kimi Raikkonen charge through the field of 2005 at this circuit. Whether we'll see Cott do the same thing today, a circuit he's taken victory at before, we'll have to see. But as of right now, it's these top 3 you have to contend with. And Dan needs to get himself back in DRS range. Cremier using his back to try and maintain that advantage, but losing a bit of time here. And Dan might get himself back inside it here, and just think he's just missed out. And Imri will only just get it off of Dan. The top 5 is splitting up a lot more now. AT has got EJ for company. Of course, EJ yet to score this season. Only 4 points this season for Ferrari, courtesy of Curtis, as Websy defends from Matthew. But Cott now right on these guys' tails. Obsessed and passing Alvar. Cotney passing Ethan. Down the main straight here. This train all in line. Yellow flag in the last sector. Not sure who that is. If will kill him. Curtis pitting. Cott sliding out there. Can't make the move on HB Cook. Stays as he is. DRS train working its magic with the cars in front of him. And Curtis into the pit lane here for his first stop on the Grand Prix. The second set of medium tyres. No wing change. No concern there. So he's going for a 2-stop, you should think. And we'll see what the plan is for these guys around. Because it's been 1-stops throughout so far. It's been the winning strategy in these races. And EJ in P7 there gets the first time penalty of the night. That's 3 seconds for multiple warnings. And now falling out of DRS range of AT. And And might fall prey to Matthews closing in too. Matthews broken away from Websy. Managed to make that pass. HB Cook looking for his second point of the season here. Of course, still very early on. We're almost a third of the way into this Grand Prix. Websy there through into turn 16 again. P9 from right now. Che passing Pope to fourth as Cott runs wide out the last corner. That will hinder his chances of an overtake there. You see the tops from 6th down to 11th all there in one shot, and then from behind them it's PJ leading the train with it was a train. JB and Alvon are behind them. Ben and they're obsessed. Ethan and Cotney, the two soft time runners, calling it quits here, pitting. Oh, and there goes Cotney breaking one of the bollards. That despawns no concern for anyone. In comes Ethan, then medium tires going on. And I shouldn't think those mediums will go to the end here. What does Cotney do? Also medium, so it could be a two-stop this race then. If we're looking at medium tyres from these guys who've already made their stops into soft, you'd think they're going for a set of hards if it was a one-stop they're doing. But we'll see what the leaders do. In terms of time management, we've always seen these guys be a bit better with the cars in front compared to the cars behind. Grumio then from Dan. Grumio now a second and a half in front and dominating here. And Imri at DRS range 2. Che also at DRS range. Pope on his tail. 8 tenths back. AT is another 9 seconds back to Pope's teammate for today. And EJ still trying to close that gap there, but not having much success. We'll see if he perhaps go for it with DRS. It's actually close enough a bit this time as Pope comes in for his first stop. So one of the McLaren's in. So look at that, 80 of a much better exit, much better traction at the last corner. And Matthew could put both cars under pressure here. DRS in play, battery being used a bit as well. Matthew to the inside at turn 1. Websy pitting as well. So we are looking at pit stop territory here. The two stop looks to be the way. Well, they're saying that Pope and Websy are both looking at hard tyres this time round. So what is the game plan here? Well, the strategies have actually split off this time round. But I should think these leaders are going to try and take these mediums as long as they can. Matthew, I think, may go for perhaps a set of soft tyres towards the end, should he run them long enough. But I think likely a set of medium tyres will be the ones in play, as he still keeps on AT's tail. EJ falling into the clutches of Cott now. Cott yet to stop. PJ and JB now just inside outside the top 10. Alval P12, Pope in P13, merging those hard tyres. Ben P14, Websy 15th. It's Curtis, Obsessed, Ethan, and Cotney Goblin. You'll round it your order. Dan bringing Grumio's lead now down to 1.2 seconds. See the interval closing just a bit. There's your stoppers. 6 cars have stopped so far from the 19, so waiting on 13 more. And Imri's next to join them. Locking up as he makes his way in. Keep focusing on what tyres he changed onto, but for now though, AT has got Matthew right on his tail here and refusing to give him. Both cars got an equally good exit there. And Matthew have DRS. This could be P5 for him. And making the pass, it'll be P4 for Matthew as Imri pits. AT then EJ, then HB Cook. Imri will emerge in P9. Just behind PJ. And a couple seconds in front of Pope, so as he was more or less. Can he gain much time on those hard tyres? How long is he going to run them for? I think it's an equally big question. So the hard tyres can run for a while, but we've seen them have to be a bit more prone to wear over the course of these first 2 rounds. But it's been one-stop victories so far. Perhaps might put pay to that. So Grumio opens his lead back up to 1.7 seconds now over Dan. And do we see the car pit? So we saw these guys go. We saw the Haas cars go a fair bit further into the race. Dan not pitting, Che not pitting either. And there goes PJ being challenged by Imrie now around the outside towards 130R. Can Imrie clear him? He can just. You see PJ lifting off there and letting Imrie have the place pretty much. Pope and P10 as AT comes in for his first stop of the Grand Prix off those medium tyres. Imagine looking at this at hards. Good clean race so far. No sign of any real incidents. No sign of any real trouble for anyone. So Dan then locked in a chase with Grimio, but can't quite gain much time. He's almost 2 seconds back now. Che is 2.5 seconds back from his teammate. Matthew there obviously had to stop 2 on those hard tyres by himself as it stands. EJ is 2 seconds behind him, hate to be cooked on his tail. And Imrie closing in on both cars in front of him, I think. PJ and Pope. So Pope want to try and clear the Aston Martin as soon as he can now. And around the outside he goes. And he's about 2 seconds back from Imrie here as he really puts pay to PJ there, squeezing him a bit on the exit turn as well, going towards 13. Wants the optimal line for that corner. And gets it too. Down into the pit lane, to the first car of the top 3 to come into the pits. Hard touch going on. He's away. Matthew may well pass him here. And Imrie may get in front too. It's going to be close here. And there is Dan emerging. I think Dan may have just got him. I said just got him. He's about a second in front again. So Imrie needs to take advantage now of the fact that Dan's still got tyres to warm up in order to try and close back in and take a net P2 back. But Che and Grimio to stop here. 5.6 seconds between the two of them. And of course, Grimio will also be on the hard tyres. But these two trying to close that gap down now. Thanks to their tyres perhaps being a bit more rubbered in when Grimio pits. Should it be this time or next time round? But I imagine we should see him stop this time. The last corner then. And Grimio is stopping. At the halfway stage pretty much. Does Che join him? Che will not join him. Che stays out. Grimio making a stop then. Onto the hard tyre. And he's away. Dan and Imrie are there. And I think that Grimio will likely still beat both cars out. How much time have they gained? Matthew past the pit exit now. And Grimio emerging. But again, Dan and Imrie need to take full advantage of the fact that Grimio's on cold tyres and close them as much as they can while it's got to get under up temperature again. So only Matthew and Che then yet to stop. Number more cars coming in. Alvar in the pit lane here. He's put hard tyres on his way. Dan still 2 seconds back from Grimio then, so not gaining much in the pits. So Che and Matthew, the lone 2 cars yet to stop. And Imrie be hoping that Matthew could do him and Dan a favour here by trying to keep Grimio at bay. Grimio 2.3 in front now. There is Dan and Imrie emerging from Spoon. Grimio closing the gap here, perhaps waiting in line a bit to try and get DRS off of Matthew, who may well stop this time as Che comes in. Che, 10 seconds for speed in the pits. That's a big penalty then for Che. And Matthew did indeed stay out as well. But gave Grimio DRS. So Che will emerge here in P5. So move Pope into net P5. Sorry, net P4, apologies. So Che net P5. Matthew in P2, another last card to stop, and Grimio back in the lead. By about 2 seconds once again to Dan. And Imri still in third place. And I think, truthfully, Grimio could be on for it. He's 2.7 now, 2.8 in front of Dan and Matthew. Both him and Imri need to clear Matthew as soon as they can, or hope Matthew stops before they probably reach him. But Grimio now 2 seconds clear and pulling ahead. Yellow flag. It's one of the Astons gone off. And that's PJ, who has found his own way to the gravel trap at turn 8. Dan threatening at Matthew and making that pass the inside. Oh, but contact there. I think he's trying to let both cars go. And Imri now right down his tail looking for second place. Both cars using overtake here. And because Dan got DRS off Matthew, he'll maintain second. Matthew staying out again. On those hard tyres can go a bit longer. Yellow flag, last sector. But just Curtis in the pits. So Curtis, of course, went for that 2-stop. He's gone to a set of soft tyres now. And I'm not entirely sure what the game plan is for Curtis and Ferrari. Whether he is really embracing the team he's driving for, I'm not entirely sure. Pope passing Matthew now. Matthew, of course, the last car yet to pit. Che right behind these guys. Cott now in P7 in front of his teammate after starting dead last. So Cott doing fantastically here, but 10 seconds back from Che in P6. And that'll likely be P5 when Matthew stops. Or it could be P5 for Che here if he can get past Matthew before chicane. Pope with both these cars on his tail, of course. Che is his main focus. The two former teammates from back in the day, from 5 seasons ago. Matthew trying to challenge, can't do it. Che there, DRS in play. And pushing his way past Matthew on the main straight towards turn 1. Can he clear him? Just clears him. And now right back on Pope's gearbox again. And the battle continues. Up front, Grimio now 3 seconds to the good over Dan. And I think Grimio may have won this race already if things stay as they are. Things stay as calm as they've been for the first 16.5 laps of this Grand Prix. Of course, the safety car could change everything. And we'll see in terms of, will we get one? Of course, Grimio showed up to the circuit with pace. As Courtney Goblin gets the third warning, gets the third penalty of the night. So 2 drivers get penalties for multiple warnings, and one of them that 10 second speeding penalty for Che, who may well, if things keep going as they are, may well lose that spot to Cott. See, Matthew is 2 seconds behind him, and Cott is just over 8 seconds back from Matthew. And he's closing the gap in. PJ had a 3-second penalty there. Grimio fastest lap, 1:29.8. 3.7 in front now. Imri trying to close him on down with DRS as we enter the last 10 laps. No such luck here. He closes the gap a bit as Che and Pope go side by side. Che makes the pass. Matthew calls it quits, makes it stop after 17 laps in these tyres. What tyre does he put onto now? medium tire going on. So taking the routine choice here. How far up can Matthew get from here? He's going to emerge outside of the points in P11. Can't just in front of JB. HP Cook, the last car on the points again. ATP 9, EJP 8. Looking for 4 more points for Ferrari to give put the total to 8. The Alpine's there in front. And looking here, Che is about 11.5 seconds in front of Cott. So Cott needs more. As Grumio continues to extend his lead. Almost 4 seconds now the gap. There's a lock up there. The tyre smoke definitely looks a lot different, which is good. Doesn't look as visible. Imrie still trying to close that gap here. Of course, hunting his first podium of the season after the first 2 races weren't particularly what the expectation was for Red Bull. Looking for their first visit at the rostrum. And keeping him close, keeping down on his tip, but really not doing enough to make a pass. Che has now dropped Pope. Pope now down to P5. Caught in P6. But not closing the gap as much now. And whether we'll see him stop again, not entirely sure. I should think we might do. So Grumio will be 8 laps to go across the line. Everyone here quite split up as it stands, except for this train here, which is sort of starting to form. EJ back down to Matthew in P11. JB P12, he's got Ethan on his tail. Obsessed game not far behind either. Alva down to P15 here, so it's been a struggle for VCARB once again. But I think a sign of improvement from both drivers in terms of where they are on track. Of course, Alva looking for a better finish this time around. P15 for him. Grumio 4 seconds in front. His lead starts to peter out a bit now. The gap between Dan and Imrie is still low. And in terms of how much Grumio is gaining, Dan's going to try and sort of get that tapered off and hope that it fades away as he tries to push him in. Tries to push towards Grumio. As you see the 2 cars there going over the bridge. That's the 2 Mercedes cars of Courtney and Ben. Of course, for those of you who were here last week and just joined during the Grand Prix and sim Ben in a Mercedes, Ben is still an RB driver, but he joined us after qualifying and the game gave him the wrong car because it's F125. So of course Ben, for those of you who weren't aware, is still an RB driver. And I imagine we'll potentially be seeing Aussie back in the car next week. Of course, next week is the first 100% Grand Prix of the season in Bahrain. Short qualifying, 18 minutes, and a full 57-lap race distance. Seven laps to go, and Imrie still closing on Dan, but not close enough. He's getting a good run, but he won't do enough. Pope coming in. And caught penalty there. And that could potentially put a stall on his charge through the order. It's only 3 seconds, but whether we'll be able to catch Che now is unlikely, I should think. Getting a spot now as Websy Cott's pitting. Making a change there. Onto a fresh set of soft tyres. Puts him down to P11 here, so 2 stops are in play for a number of cars here. The one-stop strategy is still the one trying to win the race. Matthew there has got Pope rejoining behind him. HP Cook on those 8-lap old hard tyres there in 8th place. he's still chasing EJ, who himself chasing AT. 8 points going McLaren's way as it stands right now. But that's having on to 31. But we'll still keep them in 4th place, and they'll lose a bit of that gap to Red Bull in 3rd. Lock up from Webster there going into turn number 11. AT's now got a train list tail here. He's got EJ, HB Cook, Matthew, and Pope for company. JB now in P11. Cott in P12. So I should imagine that Cott will take JB on those fresh soft tyres shortly. Six laps to go for Grimio. Will we see a late change in the top of the order here? I shouldn't think so. I think everyone's more or less where they are. The top four at least. Webb's now P5. He's on those hard tyres for 11 laps. I should see him make those to the end. ATP 6, and we're starting to see now the last end of race order start to take shape. But Pope on those medium tyres and Cott on those hards, sorry, on those softs, apologies, we may see a bit more of taking those two yet. But they've only got 6 laps to do it, so I have to make it fast. Of course, Cott has the penalty to worry about, Pope doesn't. Pope on the end of the train. Now at the front of the train here, you're seeing EJ trying to challenge AT if they run towards the first corner. Webbsy pitting onto set of soft tyres. Side by side into one. Closer contact there, but EJ around AT. EJ with 3 seconds, so will likely lose all these spots here and will fall likely to P9. As Pope challenging there, challenging Matthew on the inside, going through turn 6. Makes the pass. Fantastic overtake there. From that soft tyre, from that medium tyre McLaren. And it's up now. It's Pope's trying to pass HB Cook, and then his teammate for AT, and EJ last at the top of the train in P5 with that 3-second penalty to spare. So if Pope passes AT, he'll be able to put himself back in P5. See him challenging and makes his move to the outside. HB Cook covers him for a second, but Pope squeezes past. You saw him squeeze PJ here earlier. This time, no squeeze necessary. Pope into P7. His teammate on his tail now, or on the tail of his teammate, sorry. Pope to the left, towards 130R, blasting past AT there, into the 6th spot. Both cars will get DRS and attempt to try and run down EJ. Pope just the one reserve in the race tonight. So as it stands right now, the last point will go to JB. And Cott fastest lap. He's into the top 10 now. Pope passing EJ. There's 5 laps left and Pope is 26 seconds back from Che. If Pope can gain 16 seconds in 5 laps, then he will finish in P4, so thanks to Che's 10-second penalty. I think Che is aware of that fact. He's seeing Pope start to close the gap now. Cott closing the gap too. Got it down to 3.2 seconds now to Matthew in front. Just a shame that Chuck Leonard's penalty will be costing him today. AT passing EJ on the inside there. Out to turn 11. I think HB Cook might get in the action too. Around the outside at turn 12, side by side, learning from what he's just seen from Pope. Less than a lap ago. And there he goes. HB Cook takes P7. Matthews P8. And EJ down to 9th here. And in trouble. P9 from now. But Cott is closing the gap. Of course, both cars have penalties and are unable to be passed by the cars behind them as it stands right now. So they'll be racing for position as standard. Webbsy passing JB here. Of course, that fight is also crucial because JB and Webbsy were fighting for the last point on offer. Thanks to Pope being in the top 10. Pope fastest lap. He's on the chase here. Up front as Imri's managed to get around Dan for 2nd place. Grimio still 6.8 in front now, expanding that lead. He's got 4 laps to go so he takes his 3rd win of the season. Up front now, Imri in front of Dan, locking up into turn 11. Pope in P5, the charge is well and truly on from him. He's 24 seconds back now from Che. And really pushing it. Needs 14 seconds and 4 laps. Truthfully, I don't think he's got enough. But you never know. But Che keeping with the these cars in second and third, looking for a podium finish so you can try and take one. On track at least. Can't do it for points. But Pope purely going for pride here. Of course, Che won't lose any points even if Pope does beat him. Cott now in front of this train here. Or rather in front of EJ. Still stuck behind the train, sorry. And AT holding on to P6 now. HB Cook P7. Good points for Sauber as it stands right now. This will take HB Cook's tally to 7 for the season. Matthew P8. Closing in on HB Cook. One go for it though. And Cott stuck right behind Matthew here. May try a send, but Matthew covers him off. Cott goes for it though. Double overtake potentially into the corner. Almost locks it up, but keeps the car on the wraps. Matthew over the curb there. And Cott takes one place, slides for a second, but saves it. 3 laps to go. And Cott looking to try and get himself beyond P9. Matthew will get that place back regardless if Cott cannot clear him by 3 seconds. Which I doubt he will do. It's been a nice, smooth race here. No real concerns for anyone. AT and P6. Good points for McLaren. That'll be 10 points going McLaren's way if he can hold this up. HB Cook, we're looking at 10 points too. As will Cott. But Cott unlikely to get him. HB Cook going for a top 5 finish if he can get it. In terms of the points. But on track, Pope's got it made here. There goes Dan. Threatening Imrie to the inside. Was there contact there? No end plate damage. Oh, a slide from Imrie. And Che takes full advantage. Of course, Che likely can't beat Imrie thanks to that 10-second penalty, but he can try and hold his team. He can try and help his teammate here. Now, does Che try and back Imrie up? Imrie tries the inside. Contact between the pair of them. And Imrie trying darting back and forth. He's trying to get around the Haas. His chances at P2 slipping away here. As Dan pulls away. Grumio almost 10 seconds in front now. Cott passing AT into turn 1. That's got some clean airs trying to make an escape. But how much those soft tyres does he use? He's been on them for 5 laps now. Can he pull 3 seconds in 2 laps? We've already got 7 tenths. I think he's got a very real chance of doing it here if he keeps on that pace. Up front though, Grumio is coming through towards turn 16 to start the 27th and final lap of this race. 10.6 seconds in front. He's dominated this second stint. And since taking the lead and pulling away, Grumio has been in complete control here. 1 more lap to go. Dan second, Che in third still. Won't get the podium place, but Imrie will try and get him if he can. Towards turn 1 we go. Last time, Imrie makes the pass. And that will likely be it for that race for 3rd place. Imrie clearing Che then, but can Che try and fight back? Behind them though, the train will be also focused on Cott. Cott a second in front. Needs 2 seconds on this last lap over AT to get himself into 6th place. Making the charge up from P19 to P6. And it's still P9 for him right now. No threat behind. Everyone split up a bit more here. Websy will get the last point thanks to Pope's reservedness. Shaby will be the first car at the point to stand here, but Alva might try to go get him as well. These 2 cars dueling for P12 in the last lap. Ethan has got Curtis and Obsessed behind him too. But those guys split up again as well. Ben and P17, PJ P18 and Cockney P19. But Grumio now up towards the last sector. And he has dominated this Grand Prix from when he took the lead. It looked to be his race weekend. He came into this Grand Prix weekend with the pace. And as he comes to the last 3 corners now, looking to take a perfect 3, a hat-trick of victories here to open up season 19. It's Grumio in the last corner. Through turn 18 he comes. Checker flag at the bottom of the hill. Salve Grumio wins the Japanese Grand Prix. Victory for the 3rd time in 3 races. Dan in the last few corners here. A fantastic drive will take P2 in the championship outright. 25 points back now from Grumio. Dan second, Imrie in third place, first podium of the season for Red Bull. Che in fourth place, and Pope will come through for fifth. Remarkable reserve drive, won't score points, but still a fantastic performance for him, as it was in Australia 2 weeks ago. And here comes Cott behind them. Cott gained 2 seconds in the end on AT. So may finish P8 here. It could be P9 still. It's going to be very tight. So Cott crosses the line, P6. Good comeback regardless. AT and HB Cook both getting around, but Matthew missing out. So Cott P8, Matthew P9, and Webbs takes the last point in the end. EJ P11, JB P12, narrowly holding off Alvar there. Ethan P14, and it's Curtis P15, and holding off Obsessed Gamer, who goes off the circuit there at the last second. Giving us one more thing to keep our eyes out for. Curtis P15, Obsessed P16, Ben P17, and PJ in P18. Tough race for Aston Martin, tough race for VCarb and Mercedes as well. Courtney Goblin a lap down in the end. But Grumio then for the third time in 3 races wins it. And that was a fantastic Grand Prix. Run by everyone. Clean Grand Prix. Only a few penalties. All of them track limit or speed violation based. No penalties for collisions, nothing like that. Everyone kept things in control today, but Grumio had things under his thumb entirely here. And if he continues on this form, I see no reason why he can't go and claim a record extending 10th Drivers' Championship come the end of the season in November. But Grumio wins it then. Down in second. Second place now for him in the Drivers' Championship, outright over his teammate. Imrie in third place. That'll put him above Landos into P4 then in the championship for the first time this season. So celebrations begin for those 3 teams. Again, 3 constructors on the podium once more. It's fantastic to see. And things very, very closely matched throughout the entire field. Have a look now at the last results. Grumio wins the race. Pope fastest lap. Cott in game driver of the day. Most overtakes 2. And AT cleanest driver. Your top 10 then. Grumio from Dan in second. Imrie third. Che fourth. And it's Pope, AT, HB Cook, Cott, and Matthew and Webbsy, your top 10. EJ P11, there's JB, Alvar, Ethan, Curtis, Obsessed, Ben, PJ Khaled, and Courtney Goblin takes home the last spot in the order. So that'll do it then for coverage of the racing action here in Japan. And we'll move now to post-race interviews, and we'll see who comes along and joins us this week. And we have almost immediately Pope is in the voice chat. Pope cannot stay away. Pope, welcome along to the commentary box. And yeah, that's solid Grand Prix for you. P5 there, good reserve appearance, good day for you.
I decided to, just bit of drifting action straight into the pit lane. 4 laps a little early. I've got a great clip of it. And I did not go around the bollard, so I will hold my hands up and say, yeah, I should get a penalty for it. But I lost about 3 seconds then, and then obviously going on 25% more worn tyres than I thought I was going to be on kind of ruined the strategy. So I decided, let's get the mediums on, let's do a bit of racing. After all, my points don't matter. For me, this is just the enjoyment of racing. And I really enjoyed it today. It was, yeah, really good fun.
Of course, the fight with Che in particular was perhaps the most entertaining bit of the day. How was that racing Che again for you?
Yeah, it was good. Obviously, it was nice to be fighting the top pack. It was just a bit of a shame after his incident in the Degners, I believe. We kind of just lost the pack, lost the top 2, and we didn't really know who was gonna take control. I tried to make a move, but we just lost too much time to stay without the DRS. And even though it's a lot better now, the DRS is still pretty powerful in keeping people ahead. But nonetheless, it was good fun to race that. But I have to say, the last stint on mediums, oh my lord, the racing was just so much fun then.
Of course, in terms of strategy then, because we've seen one stop to take victory in all of the first 3 races of the season. Of course, it was said to us for a fair bit of time by the developers that we were looking at sort of races where there'd be 2 stops, I think, almost required to actually make the end. So, I mean, what's the opinion on that? Because we had only 1 stop so far, pretty much, in terms of winning strategies.
Yeah, like I say, I was going to go for that 1 stop. I think, obviously, next week a little bit different because it's the 100%. And I think Bahrain was always contentious about a 1 or 2 stop. So I do think we'll get a 2-stop there, which will be nice. But I just think that 1-stop, that medium to hards, is so powerful because the hards are such a good race tyre still. I hope we see more, but I still think it's going to be very unlikely.
I'll have to wait and see further down the line in terms of when to expect that. Of course, I think the first time we'll be looking at a 2-stop will be Monaco. Obviously, it's mandatory there. In terms of obviously future races, when will be the next time we see you? Do you think?
Whenever I'm a full-time reserve, which is lovely, and it's just kind of waiting. Hopefully, a race seat doesn't open for the people driving, but for me, I'm eager to get back in. I've loved the 2 races I've done. I've got 10 times more to give, especially when there's actual points in a championship on the line. I think I'll take it even more seriously than I do because I put a lot of practice in, even as a reserve. But yeah, very, very excited to be whenever the next in. But I would hope it is Bahrain.
We'll have to wait and see. Well, obviously, fair play on the result today. Of course, P5 for top 5 finish again, not too bad at all. And we'll come now to Obsessed, who came across the line P16 for Kick Sauber. Obsessed, tough day for you today, I think, overall. But of course, the qualifying pace was there. And was there a chance for a second that, obviously, was there a chance that Q3 was on the line? Because you came awfully close.
I think I would have been very surprised if I made it through to Q3. I had very little time to practice this week. I think I did maybe 5 or 10 laps of time trial just to learn the line, and then only like a couple AI races. So I had very little time. I was really honestly just surprised that I even made it into Q2, and even qualifying 13th was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, obviously qualifying has always been a bit of a tough one for you at times in certain circuits. So yeah, I was pleased to make Q2 as well. Of course, you're one of the drivers who went for the 2-stop over the course of the Grand Prix. How was the tyre out there today? Because I think it was sort of split in terms of who went for the 2-stop, who went for the 1.
I don't think that was horrible. My tires fell off pretty quick, it seemed, despite them having little tire wear. I know they didn't get up to horrible standards up until about 2 laps before I had to pit, so it wasn't horrible.
Fair enough. Of course, HP Cook comes home with P7, obviously pending steward's report. But in terms of, I mean, that's more points on the board for Sal. But how have you guys been getting on so far as teammates?
Pretty good. Being pretty happy with how he's been able to perform. Obviously, scoring points for the team is the biggest thing. Yeah, being really happy with how he's been doing. So, I don't know if he's a little disappointed in me, but hopefully this week I'll be able to put in some more time for Bahrain and kind of pull my own weight.
And of course, leading on to Bahrain, of course, first full-length Grand Prix of the season. Are we looking forward to getting 100% races back in?
I think it'll be interesting. Last one that we did was Brazil, with the reverse grid. That was fun. I think Bahrain is going to be heavy on tire wear. I think it's normally a hot track, so tire wear is definitely going to be a big thing. It's definitely going to be a 2-stop, and yeah, I think it'll be fun though.
Should be very enjoyable. Hopefully we can try and get you into those points for the first time this season. But of course, solid job today getting to the flag, P16 in the end. I'll move on now to our second place finisher, Daniel Aaron, who now sits second place in the Drivers' Championship. Dan, podium finish for you, mate. Well done. But Grumio, I think, was a bit too out of reach for you guys today. Would you agree with that?
Isn't he? He's just, a league of his own at the moment. Clearly the best. He just manages everything so well. And, while his 1-lap pace isn't there, his race pace is next to none. He came out the pits in front of me, and I thought, oh, I'll have cold tyres. He might fall back. No, he just pulled away even more. So, yeah, he's a machine. He's just relentless, and 3 wins in a row, and I think it's 9 in 12 now for him. So, yeah, I've got to step up my game again.
I mean, of course, even if he's in a league of his own, you're best of the rest today. But obviously, the fight with Imri over the course of the Grand Prix, and of course, very late on, you had Che there to give you a helping hand. Was that planned? Was the intention there for Chase trying to back Imri up?
After a while, seeing Che get a lot closer, then yes, it was the plan. However, initially, Che just, he really struggled with the race pace at first. He, has been driving a lot of GT3s at Fuji this week, so he's a bit rusty. But as soon as he came within, I think 3 seconds, I thought I just got to try and get him within the DRS, and we got to try and make a move on Imri. I just saved up my ERS behind him, made sure he didn't have the DRS for the straight, and that's where Che got him.
So of course Che in the wrong part of the country for a while going into this Grand Prix. But obviously P2 now in the Drivers' Championship and Bahrain next week. I mean, you guys did well at Bahrain last season. Is there a chance of another 1-2, do you think?
It's very different this season, obviously it's a 100% compared to the 50% last season. So a lot of things can change. I technically won the last 100% race, so hopefully I can keep it going and stop Grumio for the first time this season as well. So, we've got to see, obviously, first time for everything this season. Could be, Imri's been fantastic with pace in the last couple of races. He's found his step, so going to be tough.
We'll have to wait and see how it all goes down next week in Bahrain. Obviously, good job on P2. And another podium finish for you. And obviously second in the standings, as I said. And we'll come now last forward to Curtis Shepherd, who finishes in P15 in the end. Curtis, obviously Q3 of both Ferrari cars for the first time this season. Has pace sort of stepped up as a whole for you guys?
Well, it's been a weird season. I don't think yet as a team we've got a whole weekend together where we've both done really well in qualifying and the race. So there's still work to do, but there's improvements definitely.
Obviously, I mean, you were contending in the top 10 fairly early on, but obviously fell back over the course of the Grand Prix. Was there any particular reason for that?
Yeah, I just made a couple of mistakes, hit a couple of the curbs a bit too quickly, and just sent me out wide. First one was the first egg note, and then battling Websy into turn one, just clipped the curb a bit too quick, and it sent me off.
Fair enough. I mean, what I will say, I think qualifying pace has been there or thereabouts for you guys so far this campaign. Is that something you can try and keep over the course of the season, do you reckon?
Hopefully. In terms of results, I've been a bit up and down, but the pace has been there, 100%. The pace has been there in the race as well. I just a few silly mistakes today, but I think China showed that we definitely have great race pace as well.
Obviously, last question of looking into Bahrain next week, first full-length Grand Prix. Is that one you're looking forward to?
Absolutely not. Not if it's as hot as it's been recently. But no, Bahrain's a fun track. It's a bit like a go-kart track. You probably get a lot of switchbacks, everything like that. But yes, it's a weird one. It's one that either flows or it doesn't. If you're in the groove, it feels great. If you can't get it right, then it's horrible. So a lot of practice this week, building up to it, and hopefully we can be on the good groove side of it.
I have to wait and see. But I mean, in terms of it being hot next week, I mean, I should think that just adds to the immersion, surely, of racing in Bahrain.
Yeah, I'd rather it not be.
Fair enough. I mean, okay, I think I speak for us when I say no more heat for a bit in the UK. We're okay for now. But I mean that will more or less do it then for posters and interviews, and that'll do it then for coverage of the third round of the season here in the Racers Driving League. Obviously, next week's Grand Prix will take place on the 30th of June. So Bahrain Grand Prix, first full length race of the season, short qualifying, 18 minutes, and into a full 57 lap race. Make sure to join us for that when that happens. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more future audio content.